He didn't expect the first words of the night to hit him like a slap, but they did. Sharp, public, and laced with the kind of contempt that makes a whole hotel lobby turn quiet. Room service isn't for people like you, the manager said, loud enough for the chandeliers to shiver. And for a split second, no one breathed. No trays rolling, no printers humming. Just a black man standing still in the center of a luxury hotel he quietly owned, staring at a stranger who had no idea he'd just picked the worst possible target. Something was coming. You could feel it in the way the air tightened, like the moment before a storm breaks open. And if anyone in that lobby thought this was going to end the usual way, with humiliation swallowed and silence forced, they were about to learn why 10 minutes can rewrite an entire room's idea of power. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. He had walked in quietly, dressed in a dark hoodie, worn backpack slung over one shoulder, the kind of outfit hotel staff too often mistake as less than. He wasn't flashy, wasn't loud, wasn't trying to prove a thing. He simply requested the dinner he'd ordered to be sent up to his suite on the 28th floor. Instead, the manager looked at him the way people look at a problem they're already tired of. What room did you say again? The manager asked, voice dipped in suspicion instead of professionalism. 2801, he answered. Calm, even. But the manager let out a short, mocking laugh. Yeah, sure. Executive floor? You can't even convince me you're a guest, let alone someone who can afford that level. A couple nearby snickered. One rolled his eyes and said under his breath, yet loud enough to be heard, man's probably here trying to get a free meal. The words landed heavy, like someone throwing dirt on a coffin. A young intern at the side desk stiffened. She had seen the guest list earlier, memorized. Names the way trainees desperate to prove themselves do. And she recognized his. Suite 2801. A VIP flag next to it. But when she opened her mouth, the manager cut her off with a raised hand sharp enough to slice the air. Don't. This one's trying something. I've seen it before. Then, louder, so the entire lobby could hear. Sir, if you cause any more disturbance, security will escort you out. We do not tolerate fraudulent claims. And those words, pulled something old and unwelcome out of him. A memory from when he was 14, shoved aside by a security guard in a grocery store because a candy bar was missing from a shelf. He hadn't taken it. That didn't matter. Back then, he had swallowed it. Back then, he had stayed small because he didn't know another way. Tonight, he did. But he didn't raise his voice, didn't flash anger, didn't bark back. Instead, he reached into his pocket, pulled out his phone, and pressed one button. Maria, he said quietly, initiate protocol 3. The intern's eyes widened. She knew what that meant, or at least sensed it in the way the lobby lights suddenly felt too bright. The manager scoffed. Protocol? What is this, a movie? But then the front desk monitor blinked. A soft chime. A system alert no one there had ever seen. High-level owner access. Active. The manager's smirk twitched. The intern's hand flew to her mouth. Somewhere deep in the hotel's network, doors, digital and real, were unlocking for one man. And the man everyone in that lobby had just mocked finally lifted his head, eyes steady, voice low enough to chill every surface it touched. The story hadn't even started, but the room was already shifting under their feet. The manager's smirk had barely faded when the room seemed to contract around him, the way air tightens before a storm breaks open. Suite 2801. Executive floor. A black man in a hoodie. Those were the only facts he bothered to process, and he had already decided they did not add up. Sir, put the phone away, he snapped, his voice rising just enough to draw glances from the other guests. If you keep pretending you belong here, I will have you removed. The man did not react. Not with anger. Not with fear. His calm was unsettling, almost surgical in its precision. He lowered his phone slowly, but the voicemail chime from the call he had placed seconds earlier still echoed faintly in the lobby. The intern standing near the concierge desk shifted her weight, torn between speaking up and staying silent. Her badge still said trainee, but her eyes said she already understood the magnitude of the mistake unfolding in front of her. She had seen his name this morning during check-in reconciliation, highlighted in gold, marked with a tag she had never seen before, owner-level access. But before she could speak, the assistant manager, a man in his 40s with stiff posture and the confidence of someone who never questioned his own judgment, approached with quick steps and a deep frown. "What seems to be the issue?" he asked the manager, barely glancing at the guest. The manager wasted no time. "He is trying to claim he is staying in 2801. He wants room service. No verification. No proof. Nothing." The assistant manager looked the guest up and down, his jaw tightening. "Sir, this hotel has standards," he said. "You cannot just walk in from the street and demand services meant for paying clients." A low murmur spread through the lobby. A couple holding shopping bags whispered to each other, their eyes darting between the staff and the man in the hoodie. An older gentleman near the elevators folded his newspaper, watching more closely now. The man clasped his hands behind his back, breathing evenly. "I requested something I paid for," he said calmly. "That is all." "Paid for?" The manager scoffed. "Please. Even your outfit says otherwise." The words were loud. Too loud. Purposefully loud. And for a moment, the past bled into the present. 14 years old again. Accused of stealing candy. Escorted out of a store he had spent his allowance in for years. The shame back then had sunk into his ribs like a bruise that refused to fade. But tonight, he felt none of that. Only clarity. The assistant manager gestured toward the front entrance. "Sir, I am giving you one chance to leave voluntarily. If not, I will contact security." He already did, a voice said quietly. "The intern." Her voice trembled at first, but she stepped forward anyway. "I saw his name on the guest list," she said. "This morning. Suite 2801. It is real." The manager shot her a glare sharp enough to silence most employees. "Do not get involved. You do not understand how these situations work." "I understand enough," she replied, steadier now. "You did not even check the system before accusing him." The assistant manager waved her off. "Trainees observe. They do not correct." Then he turned back to the guest. "Sir, this is your final warning." The guest looked at him, and for the first time, his calm sharpened into something colder. "You should check your system," he said softly, "before this goes further." The assistant manager reached over the counter and tapped the screen with irritated precision. But the moment he searched the name, the screen flickered with the same alert the front desk monitor had displayed seconds earlier. High-level owner access active. A hush rolled through the lobby. The assistant manager's finger froze above the keyboard. His face drained of color as the screen populated with details, each one more damning than the last. Primary owner. Board authorization level. Global access code. The man in the hoodie watched the realization settle over both managers like a weight they could not lift. "This must be a mistake," the manager stammered. "That is not possible." The guest stepped forward just enough for his voice to land with full weight. "You denied room service," he said, "to the person responsible for every paycheck in this building." The whispering in the lobby turned into a ripple of disbelief. The intern covered her mouth. The couple with shopping bags exchanged wide-eyed looks. The older gentleman by the elevators shook his head slowly, as if he had seen this story too many times in his life. And then the assistant manager found his voice again, thin and cracking. "Why did you not say who you were?" The man's answer was steady, low, and devastating. "Because I should not have to." The room did not breathe. Not a sound. Not a movement. Only truth settling over every witness like dust after an explosion. For a long moment, no one in the lobby seemed to know how to breathe. The alert still glowed on the monitor, a stark digital confession that everything the managers had assumed was wrong. The assistant manager swallowed hard and stepped back from the desk as if the screen itself might burn him. The manager, still gripping a clipboard he no longer needed, stared at the guest with an expression caught somewhere between disbelief and fear. The guest, however, remained still, his posture steady and composed, as though he had been here many times before. And in a way, he had. Not this lobby, not this hotel, but this moment. This moment where people who looked at him and saw less suddenly had to face the truth that he was far more than they ever gave him credit for. The assistant manager forced out a thin, brittle laugh. "There must be some kind of error in the system," he muttered, his voice shaking. We just need to recheck the data. The guest tilted his head slightly, his calm colder than anger. Your system is functioning exactly as designed, he said. You just did not bother to look at it. The intern stepped even closer now, her hands clasped in front of her, her voice barely above a whisper. He is telling the truth, she said. I recognize the name because there is a special access tag on his profile. I did not know what it meant, but I knew it was important. The manager spun toward her, panic slipping into his tone. Stop talking. You are making this worse. But she did not look at him. She looked at the guest. I am sorry, she said. He nodded once, acknowledging her courage without breaking the rhythm of the moment. As he spoke again, his voice carried across the lobby with quiet authority. Earlier, you accused me of pretending to be a guest. You threatened to call security. You mocked what I was wearing. But none of that was based on policy. The manager stiffened, knowing what was coming but unable to stop it. It was based on your assumptions, the guest continued. And your assumptions were based on me being a black man in a hoodie asking for something I already paid for. The couple near the seating area exchanged uncomfortable glances. A woman holding a suitcase pressed a hand to her chest. An older man near the elevators muttered, This is exactly how it happens. The manager tried to recover, his voice tight and trembling. Sir, please understand, we have had incidents in the past. We have to be cautious with walk-in attempts. It is not personal. The guest looked him directly in the eyes. You made it personal when you decided I did not belong. The assistant manager stepped forward, desperate to regain control. Sir, we want to resolve this professionally. If you will allow us to bring someone from upper administration, we can. The guest interrupted with a single quiet word. Do not. The assistant manager froze. There is no need for someone above you, the guest said. Because I am the one above you. Another hush swept through the room. The air felt heavy, charged, the way a courtroom feels right before a verdict is read. He lifted his phone again and tapped the screen once. A voice immediately answered through the speaker, crisp and efficient. Sir, this is Maria. Protocol 3 is fully active. All access logs have been synchronized. Do you require the next step? The assistant manager's face drained completely. The manager stumbled backward, nearly tripping over the corner of the desk. Even the intern gasped softly, realizing the scope of authority unfolding in real time. Not yet, Maria, the guest replied. I want them to understand exactly what they did before I act. Understood, Maria said before the call ended. The manager tried again, his voice quivering. Sir, if you could just give us a moment, we can prepare a proper explanation. You had your moment, the guest said. It happened when I walked through the door, and you decided exactly who I was before I spoke a single word. The intern stepped closer, her voice shaking but clear. He is right. You did not check anything. You did not ask any questions. You made up your mind instantly. The assistant manager snapped. Trainees are not allowed to challenge supervisors. For the first time, the guest's voice sharpened, not loud but unmistakably firm. Then perhaps you should consider why your trainees recognize respect while your managers do not. The intern's eyes brimmed with something between relief and disbelief. The manager ran a hand across his forehead, his fingers trembling. Sir, he stammered, we can fix this. We did not know who you were. The guest responded with a calm that cut deeper than anger ever could. And that is the problem. You treat people well only when you think they have power. You treat them poorly when you assume they do not. That is not caution. That is bias. A woman in the lobby whispered, he is right, while another murmured, this is uncomfortable, but it is true. The guest let silence settle for a beat before. He continued, earlier, you asked why I did not tell you who I was. He leaned forward just enough for the words to land with full gravity. Because I should not have to earn basic respect by being the owner. I should have received it simply by being a person standing in this lobby. Every head in the room lowered slightly, including the assistant managers. The truth was no longer something they could hide from. It was standing right in front of them, wearing a hoodie they had judged and a title they had never imagined. The lobby felt different now, as if every light had dimmed except the ones exposing the two men who had tried to strip him of dignity minutes earlier. The assistant manager's shoulders sagged beneath the weight of consequences he could not yet see but already feared. The manager's clipboard hung loosely at his side, his fingers twitching like they were searching for an excuse that no longer existed. Meanwhile, the intern stood very still, her breath unsteady but her spine straight, as if witnessing something she knew would stay with her for the rest of her career. The guest remained calm, almost unnervingly so, the kind of calm that does not come from passivity but from control, history, and a long pattern of surviving situations exactly like this. He looked around the room slowly, letting the silence settle again, heavier this time. "This is not the first time something like this has happened," he said quietly. "Not to me, and not in this hotel." The assistant manager blinked, confused. The manager shifted uncomfortably, as if the truth might be crawling under his skin. The guest continued, his voice steady enough to make his words feel carved into the air. "I read every quarterly report, every complaint, every flagged incident that you filed, and every one you buried under vague explanations." He paused, and the room seemed to shrink even further around him. "There is a pattern here, one you helped create." The manager raised both hands, palms out. "Sir, please. Whatever was written, it is exaggerated. People complain all the time. We do our best." The guest's expression did not change. You do your best when the guest fits your idea of who belongs. The man near the elevators nodded under his breath, muttering, "He is not wrong." A woman near the fireplace pulled out her phone again, this time not to record but to look up the hotel's reviews. Her eyebrows tightened as she scrolled. "There are a lot of complaints like this," she whispered to the friend beside her. The assistant manager rubbed his forehead, clearly unraveling. "Sir, we can fix this. We can arrange a formal apology, and perhaps a complimentary stay, and—" "No," the guest said firmly. "This is not about a free night. This is about accountability." He raised his phone again. The screen lit his face with a cold glow. "Maria," he said. Her voice answered instantly through the speaker. "Yes, sir. I am here." "Begin the record," he said. "Full incident documentation, audio and timestamps. Include all interactions from the moment I entered the lobby." There was a soft clicking sound as the protocol activated. The manager stiffened. The intern's eyes widened again. Maria's voice came through clearly. "Recording is now live. I have synchronized the internal camera feeds as well. Do you want the system to notify corporate compliance?" The assistant manager immediately panicked. "Sir, please. We can resolve this internally. We do not need corporate involved." The guest did not even look at him. "Yes, Maria," he said. "Notify them." "Understood," she replied. "Compliance has been alerted. Estimated time of review initiation is under 2 minutes." The manager's face flushed red, then pale, then red again. "Sir, please," he stammered. "You are escalating this too quickly. We did not mean any harm." "Intent does not erase impact," the guest replied. "And the impact of what you did is not temporary. It is normal. For you. For people like me, it is not." The intern swallowed hard and stepped forward again, her voice small but brave. "He is right," she said. "This is not just a misunderstanding. This is happening because of how you assumed he looked. This is not the first time I have seen something like this from you both." The assistant manager stared at her, betrayed. "You are speaking out of turn." "No," she replied. "I am speaking because this is the truth." The guest nodded once at her, then turned back to the managers. "You asked earlier why I did not say who I was. You asked why I did not announce my position or my influence." He let the question hang for a beat. "Because I wanted to see if this hotel treats every guest with respect, or only the ones who can fire you." The manager's voice broke. "Sir, please. We never intended—" "Stop," the guest said, his voice calm but final. "Do not rewrite the story because you are afraid of the ending." At that moment, a soft chime sounded from his phone. Maria's voice returned, sharper now, carrying the authority of someone who understood the gravity of the moment. "Sir, compliance has joined the live session. They can hear everything happening in the lobby." The managers froze completely, trapped in a moment they had created with their own prejudice. The guest looked at them one last time, the quiet power behind his voice unmistakable. "Good," he said. "Then let us continue." The assistant manager stood frozen, his hands hovering uselessly at his sides, as if any movement might trigger a deeper consequence. The manager looked even worse. His face had drained of color completely, leaving behind a hollow expression that hinted at the dawning realization that this moment could end his entire career. The lobby around them had fallen into the kind of silence that feels like a held breath, tense and waiting. Every witness, every guest, Every employee had become part of something larger than a simple dispute over room service. They all understood it now. This was not a misunderstanding. This was a reckoning. The guest let the quiet stretch, the weight of the moment pressing down on those who had created it. He did not raise his voice. He did not need to. "Let us begin with the facts," he said. Maria's voice came softly through the phone in his hand, calm but sharp with procedural clarity. "Compliance is listening. All audio streams are active, and the incident file is recording. Please proceed when ready." The manager swallowed hard. "Sir, please. We can provide an apology. We can issue a corrective action. There is no need for this level of escalation." The guest looked at him with an expression that held no hate, only truth. "You think escalation happens when consequences arrive?" he said. "Escalation happened the moment you decided I could not possibly be a guest because of how I look." A murmur drifted from the group of onlookers. A woman with a red scarf shook her head in disbelief, whispering, "I cannot believe they talked to him that way." An older man near the window muttered, "This is exactly why people complain." The manager pressed his clipboard to his chest as if it could shield him. "Sir, I admit we made assumptions. We misread the situation." The guest took a slow breath, his voice still steady. "You misread nothing. You read exactly what you wanted to see." His eyes shifted to the assistant manager. "Tell me, when I walked in, did it ever cross your mind that I could be a paying guest?" The assistant manager hesitated, panic flickering across his face. It was a busy evening. We respond based on patterns of past incidents." "Patterns?" the guest asked. "Or prejudice?" The assistant manager's mouth opened, but no words came. The guest continued, "What you call caution is often just discrimination made acceptable by your own comfort." The intern stepped forward again, her voice stronger now. "I saw it," she said. "You did not just doubt him. You dismissed him. Immediately. If I had not spoken up, you would have had security remove him." The manager turned toward her sharply. "You are making dangerous accusations for someone in training." The guest spoke before she could respond. "No. She is telling the truth you refuse to see." Maria's voice returned through the phone. "Sir, compliance has reviewed prior incident logs filed under both managers. Several show inconsistencies. Would you like a summary?" The assistant manager visibly flinched. "No," he blurted out. "No, that will not be necessary." The guest replied, "Yes, Maria. Continue." A short pause. Then her voice came through, crisp and devastating. "Over the past 18 months, there have been 12 flagged complaints related to front desk treatment. 8 involved guests of color. All 8 were marked as resolved without investigation. Sign-off indicates both managers on duty." Gasps spread through the lobby. The red scarf woman covered her mouth. The older man near the window muttered, "They buried them." The manager stammered, "Those files were exaggerated. People misunderstand policy. We did our best to maintain order." "Order," the guest said. "Without fairness is not order. It is control." His voice remained calm, but his words hit harder than any shout could have. "You want to know why this moment is happening," he continued. "Why compliance is listening. Why this hotel's entire system is being examined." The assistant manager looked at him with pleading eyes. "Sir, please. We are not bad people. We just made a mistake tonight." The guest stepped closer, his voice dropping into something that felt like a verdict. "This was not one mistake. It was one more mistake. One in a long line. One you would have repeated tomorrow, and the next day, and the day after that. The only difference tonight is that you aimed it at the wrong man." The intern closed her eyes for a moment, as if absorbing the magnitude of that truth. And then the guest lifted his phone slightly. "Maria," he said, "prepare phase 2. The words struck the managers like a blow. "Yes, sir," Maria answered. "Phase 2 ready upon your command." The lobby held its breath again. Justice had not arrived yet, but it was coming. The air in the lobby tightened even further the moment he said the words, "Prepare phase 2." As if the entire room understood that whatever patience had existed up until now was officially gone. The assistant manager's knees seemed to weaken, and he leaned subtly against the counter for support, while the manager looked like he had been hollowed out from the inside. The intern stood motionless, her breath shallow, her eyes flicking between the guest and the 2 supervisors who had dug themselves into a hole deeper than they could climb out of. The guest lowered his phone slightly, but he did not pocket it. The quiet glow of the screen reflected in his eyes, a reminder that compliance was still listening, still watching, still documenting. "Before we continue," he said, his voice so calm it felt like a deliberate contrast to the panic around him, "I want to give you both an opportunity to speak the truth. Not excuses. Truth." The manager's voice cracked as he attempted to steady himself. "Sir, we were only following what we believed to be proper protocol. We never intended to discriminate. We were simply trying to maintain order and prevent fraudulent access." The guest shook his head slowly. "That is not truth. That is a shield you are hiding behind. Intentions do not erase harm. And if your protocols lead to the same people being questioned, denied, and humiliated again and again, then your protocols are the problem." The assistant manager stepped forward, desperation leaking into his voice. "We have had incidents with individuals trying to access executive floors. We have to be careful." "Careful," the guest repeated. "Then why were 8 complaints marked as resolved without investigation? Why were all 8 from guests who look like me?" Silence. Thick. Heavy. The kind that does not need an answer because the answer is already obvious. The intern took a small breath and spoke, her voice stronger than before. "Sir, I have seen how they handled things here. The way they spoke to him tonight is not unusual. I have watched them question certain guests more aggressively than others. I wanted to say something earlier, but I was afraid." The guest looked at her gently. "Fear thrives when leadership rewards silence. You spoke up tonight. That matters." She nodded, her eyes glossy. Maria's voice returned through the phone, cutting through the lobby with impeccable clarity. "Sir, Phase 2 includes administrative notification, access lockdown, and temporary removal of managerial credentials. Do you want to initiate?" The assistant manager immediately panicked. "Please, sir. If you activate that, we will be unable to perform our duties. The hotel will go into partial freeze." "It froze for me the moment you decided I was not welcome," the guest replied. "The hotel stopped serving its purpose when its staff stopped serving its guests." The manager stepped forward slightly, palms open as if pleading with a force far greater than he could comprehend. "Sir, please. We have families. We have responsibilities. We cannot lose our positions over a misunderstanding." "A misunderstanding?" the guest said, and the weight of those 2 words made several onlookers shake their heads. "You grabbed my tray. You threatened to remove me. You accused me of lying. You refused to check the system. You ignored your trainee when she tried to speak. And you did all of this not because of a misunderstanding, but because you never believed someone who looks like me could stay on your executive floor." The manager's mouth opened, then closed, then opened again in a trembling attempt to form words that would not come. The assistant manager wiped sweat from his forehead, his expression a mixture of dread and disbelief. "Sir, we truly did not know," he whispered. "We did not know who you were." The guest stepped closer, not intimidating but intentional, his voice barely above a whisper. "And if I had not been the owner? If I had been any other black guest coming in from a long day, in need of rest, wearing a hoodie instead of a suit, what would have happened to him?" Neither manager answered. The silence was louder than any admission. The guest raised his phone again. "Maria," he said gently. "Initiate Phase 2. "Yes, sir," she replied immediately. A soft series of chimes sounded from the front desk terminals. The monitors blinked. The icons shifted. A red notification flashed twice. Then the system delivered its verdict. "Managerial credentials disabled," Maria announced. "Both managers have been locked out of the Horizon system effective immediately." The manager let out a broken sound, something between a gasp and a sob. The assistant manager grabbed the counter to keep himself upright. The intern covered her mouth in shock. Guests in the lobby stared in stunned silence as the weight of justice settled firmly in the center of the room. And through it all, the guest remained composed, unshaken, steady. The storm had arrived. And yet, he had not raised his voice once. The moment the managerial credentials disappeared from the system, the lobby shifted into a different kind of silence, one that felt heavier and more deliberate, as though the building itself was listening. The manager sagged against the counter, his hands trembling. The assistant manager looked as if he had aged 10 years in the span of a single notification. Yet the guest stood exactly as he had from the beginning, steady, centered, holding the calm that had carried him through every moment of disrespect thrown his way. The intern, still processing the gravity of what she had just witnessed, stepped back slightly, but kept her gaze fixed on the guest, as if afraid to miss what happened next. A few guests in the lobby moved closer, forming a loose semicircle of silent witnesses who understood that the story unfolding before them was bigger than the hotel, bigger than two panicked managers, and bigger than the single moment that had sparked it. The guest took a measured breath before speaking again. "Now that your credentials are disabled," he said, directing his words at both supervisors, "you can no longer modify records or alter the chain of events. Everything is preserved exactly as it happened." The manager's voice cracked. "Sir, please, we understand we made errors, but this level of action is devastating. There must be a way to reconsider." "Reconsider?" the guest repeated softly. "You reconsidered nothing when you threatened to have me removed. You reconsidered nothing when you refused to listen to your trainee. You reconsidered nothing when you chose humiliation over procedure." The assistant manager stepped forward slightly, his voice tight with desperation. "We are asking for mercy. We truly did not understand who you were." The guest's eyes fixed on him with a calm so controlled it felt like gravity. "That sentence," he said, "is the foundation of your problem. You show respect only upward. You show bias downward. And you call it professionalism." The assistant manager's lips parted, but he had no response. The guest continued, "If your behavior changes based on status, then it is not professionalism. It is selective humanity." Someone in the crowd whispered, "He is right." And another murmured, "This is long overdue." The intern exhaled shakily and spoke. "I have been here for weeks. I have seen it. They treat certain guests with suspicion before they even speak. I was afraid to say anything, because trainees usually stay quiet." The guest nodded gently toward her. "You should never lose your job for telling the truth. And today, you will not." Her eyes softened with relief she did not try to hide. Maria's voice emerged again from the phone, steady and neutral. "Sir, Phase 2 has been completed. Would you like to initiate Phase 3? The managers tensed visibly at the phrase. "Phase 3? The assistant manager repeated, barely above a whisper. "What is Phase 3? The guest did not answer immediately. Instead, he shifted his attention toward the guests who were watching closely. "For years, this property has reported smooth operations," he said. "High guest satisfaction. Minimal incidents. And yet, the complaint logs tell another story, one that was hidden, ignored, or dismissed." He turned back to the manager and the assistant manager. "Phase 3 is the restoration of truth." The manager's knees buckled slightly. "Sir, please, we are begging you. We did not imagine it would come to this." "Most people do not imagine consequences until they arrive," the guest replied. "For you, they arrive today. For guests who look like me, they arrive every day." The lobby fell into another heavy silence. The guest lifted his phone again. "Maria," he said, "initiate Phase 3. "Yes, sir," she responded. "Broadcasting internal message now." A moment later, every employee-facing screen in the lobby, including the terminals near the check-in desks, lit up with a message in bold white text against a black background. The intern gasped. Several guests leaned in to read. The manager covered his face with both hands. The assistant manager stared as if unable to blink. The screen displayed the unmistakable statement. "Effective immediately, both managerial staff on duty are placed on administrative leave pending full investigation by corporate compliance. All access is revoked. All logged incidents are under audit." A ripple of shock ran through the room. The guest lowered his phone slowly. "This is not punishment," he said quietly. "This is accountability. What you did tonight does not disappear because you regret the outcome. It stays in the system now, just as it should have all along." The intern swallowed hard, overwhelmed not by fear, but by something that looked like relief. The managers stood in stunned, silent defeat. And in the center of the lobby, the guest remained calm, his voice steady as ever. "This is what happens," he said, "when the people you underestimate finally get to speak." The announcement glowing across every employee-facing screen hit the lobby like a silent explosion. No sound, no flash, but its impact rippled through every person present. The manager's breathing turned shallow, almost shaky, as if each word on the screen carved deeper into the reality he could no longer outrun. The assistant manager stared forward with unfocused eyes, his posture collapsing inch by inch as the weight of accountability settled squarely on his shoulders. The intern covered her lips with her hand, stunned not by fear, but by the realization that the truth she had been too afraid to speak had finally been validated in front of the entire hotel. The guests, who had slowly gathered into a loose semicircle around the unfolding reckoning, whispered among themselves, their murmurs forming a soft, unbroken chain of shock, recognition, and quiet agreement. They were witnessing something rare, something they knew did not happen often. Consequences delivered not in private meetings or silent paperwork, but in the open, in real time, with the dignity of the wronged man leading the process. The guest stood centered in the lobby, still holding his phone, the glow of the screen illuminating the calm determination across his face. Phase 3 is complete, Maria's voice announced crisply through the speaker. All managerial access has been revoked. System logs are now preserved under compliance lock. The manager stumbled forward slightly, his voice barely holding together. Sir, please. I understand that mistakes were made tonight, but if you give us a chance, we can improve. We can attend training, commit to revised policies, or take corrective action. Please reconsider. The guest's expression did not change. Improvement should have started long before tonight, he said. Training should not be a punishment. It should be part of basic competence. The assistant manager's voice cracked as he attempted to reclaim even the smallest fraction of control. Sir, we have served this hotel for years. We have worked long hours. We have given everything to this job. The guest met his eyes with a calm that felt carved from something immovable. You gave everything to the job, he said, but you did not give respect to the people the job exists for. A woman in the crowd nodded slowly. That part, she whispered to her friend, who murmured, he is saying everything people think but rarely get to say out loud. The intern took a hesitant step forward. Sir, she said softly, I want to thank you for not ignoring what happened. Most people do. They just act like these moments are inconveniences. He turned toward her with a gentler expression. It is not an inconvenience to expect fairness, he said, and it is not unreasonable to demand it. She lowered her eyes, absorbing his words as if they were something she had needed to hear long before this night. The assistant manager pressed a trembling hand to the counter. Sir, we are begging you. Please. If this goes any further, we could lose everything. The guest inhaled slowly and let the breath out in a steady, controlled stream. Every day, he said, there are people who walk into places just like this one and lose something long before you ever will. Their dignity, their comfort, their right to be treated like any other guest. The lobby went still. Not a whisper, not a rustle of fabric, only the truth settling deeper into every corner of the room. You are asking for mercy, he continued. But no one in your position ever offered it to the guest you dismissed or humiliated. The manager took a step forward, desperation rising in his throat. Please, just give us one chance to show we can change. Change, the guest said quietly, comes after accountability, not instead of it. From the phone, Maria's voice returned. Sir, compliance is requesting confirmation for Phase 4. They note that both managers have been notified of administrative leave. They are asking if you would like to proceed with final action. The assistant manager's voice jumped an octave. Final action? What does that mean? The guest kept his eyes on the phone for a moment before answering. It means resolution. He looked up at both men. The kind of resolution you denied to every guest who filed a complaint and never received a response. The manager shook his head, trembling. Sir, please, do not. We can make this right. You have proven your point. No, the guest replied. I did not come here to prove a point. I came here to request room service. You turned it into something else. The intern exhaled softly, and another guest whispered, he is right. They did this to themselves. The assistant manager tried one final time. Sir, we did not know who you were. The guest stepped closer, just enough for his voice to land with finality. If I had been anyone else, you would have treated me exactly the same. He raised the phone again. Maria, he said, prepare Phase 4. Yes, sir, she replied. Standing by for your command. And in the charged, breathless quiet of the lobby, every person understood that the moment of final consequence was no longer approaching. It had arrived. The lobby held its breath so completely that even the faint hum of the overhead lights felt louder than the people standing beneath them. Every witness who had gathered now stood still, eyes fixed on the man in the hoodie who had been denied room service only minutes earlier, unaware at the time that he was confronting the very top of the hotel's own chain of command. He remained calm, his posture measured, his breathing even, while the two managers who had tried to remove him now trembled openly under the weight of consequences they could no longer outrun. The phone in his hand glowed softly, Maria's voice waiting patiently on the line. "Sir," she said in her steady, composed tone, "Phase 4 is ready for activation. Please confirm when you are prepared to proceed." The assistant manager's mouth quivered as he whispered, "Please, sir, I beg you. If Phase 4 is what I think it is, we will be terminated. Our careers, our reputations, everything will be destroyed." The guest looked at him, not with cruelty, but with an unwavering truth that left no room for negotiation. "You destroyed something long before tonight," he said. "Not your own careers, but the dignity of guests who trusted this hotel to treat them fairly." The manager stepped forward, his hands shaking so violently he had to grip the counter to steady himself. "Sir, I swear, if you give us one chance, just one, we will fix everything. We will change the way we handle complaints. We will treat every guest with respect. We will do anything to repair the damage." "Damage," the guest repeated softly. "What happened tonight is not damage. It is exposure. The real damage was done to those who never had the power to stand in this room and demand accountability." The intern took a slight breath and stepped forward. "Sir," she said, her voice careful but sincere, "I want you to know something. What you are doing tonight, it matters. More than you think. I have seen things here that made me question whether this industry was even meant for someone like me. But seeing you stand here, holding them accountable, gives me hope." He turned to her with a gentleness that contrasted the steel in his voice moments earlier. "Then make sure you carry that hope into whatever you do next," he told her. "This place needs people like you. People who remember that hospitality is not about hierarchy. It is about humanity." Her eyes grew glossy with emotion, but she did not look away. Maria's voice returned, polite yet impossibly direct. "Sir, compliance is requesting that you confirm Phase 4 within the next 60 seconds. Once authorized, personnel files will reflect the final decision immediately." The assistant manager's chest rose and fell with quick, shallow breaths. "Sir, please. I have a family. I cannot lose this job." The guest tilted his head, considering him for a long, quiet moment. "When you threatened to have me removed, did you wonder whether I had a family?" he asked. The assistant manager's eyes fell to the floor. The manager whispered, "We were wrong. We were wrong. We admit it." "Admitting it now is not the same as confronting it when it mattered," the guest replied. He raised his phone slightly. "Maria," he said, "initiate Phase 4. The manager made a broken sound. The assistant manager's face collapsed entirely. Maria's voice responded instantly. "Phase 4 confirmed. Executing." A moment later, the elevator screens, the desk monitors, and even the small display panels by the automatic doors lit up with the final message. Effective immediately, both managerial employees are terminated from Horizon Hospitality Group. All access is revoked. Compliance review is complete. Corporate has authorized immediate removal from the premises. A wave of gasps swept across the lobby. The manager stumbled backward, covering his mouth. The assistant manager reached for the counter again, but the weight of the moment was too much. His legs buckled, and he steadied himself only by gripping the edge with both hands. The intern stared at the screens, stunned, her hand pressed tightly against her heart. "Sir," Maria added through the phone, "security has been notified to escort them out respectfully. They will not be permitted to re-enter the building except to retrieve personal belongings under supervision." Several guests shook their heads, not in disagreement, but in the solemn recognition that they had witnessed justice delivered cleanly, precisely, and without a raised voice. The guest looked at the two managers, his tone steady and final. "This is not anger," he said. "This is accountability. You believed respect was optional. Tonight, you learned it is not." The manager wiped his eyes. The assistant manager remained frozen, defeated. And in the center of the lobby, the man they had dismissed, doubted, and nearly thrown out lowered his phone for the final time. "I did not ask for special treatment," he said quietly. "I asked for room service." With that, the lobby fell into a profound silence, heavy with understanding, and the truth became undeniable. He had never needed to raise his voice to raise the standard.